How we doing, Aggies? All right. Arif, thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's certainly my pleasure to be here on the UC Davis campus, sister campus of UC Santa Barbara, where I got my master's in engineering. So great to be here. You know, a lot of people always tell me, they said, Jose, why would you want to go from a job that has 100% approval rating to a job that barely has 10% at best approval rating? And there's a story to that, and I'll be happy to tell you. It goes way back to when I was a kid. I was 9 years old. Unfortunately, I have to fess up that I'm old enough to remember the tail end of the Apollo program. And there I was, 9 years old, 1972, watching Gene Cernan walk on the surface of the moon. We had an old black and white TV, could not afford cable, so we had the next best thing, rabbit ear antennas on top of the TV. And me being the youngest of 4 kids, guess who got to hold the antenna to improve the reception? I always kid with my siblings. I said it was through osmosis that I became an astronaut. But I was mesmerized in watching Gene Cernan walk on the surface of the moon, bounce 1/6 the gravity, bounce like a little rabbit up there, talking to Mission Control Houston, and then I would let go of the TV and go outside, and I would be able to see the moon. Go back inside, see Gene Cernan, and I said, wow. We have humans on the surface of the moon at this instant, and I'm seeing it live on TV. That's what I want to be. And I decided to become an astronaut at that point, at that moment. I remember the best thing I could have done was to share that dream with my parents. Mind you, we were migrant farm workers. I'm first generation. My parents from Michoacan, Mexico, but I was born and raised here in the Central Valley, French Camp, California, and raised in Stockton. And best thing I could have done was share that dream with my parents. My dad took me to the kitchen table, and he said, you want to be what? I thought I was in trouble. And I said, quiero ser astronauta. I want to be an astronaut. Mind you, he only had a 3rd grade education like my mom. And he looked at me, and he said, I think you can do it. I think you can do it. You just need to follow a simple recipe, 5-step recipe. He said, first, define your goal. 2nd, recognize how far you are from it. 3rd, draw yourself a roadmap. Don't take shortcuts. 4th, get yourself an education. 5th, the same work ethic you put out in the fields picking cucumbers, you put it in your books, and you put it in your job. Always give more than what's expected. You mix that up, you can be whatever you want because we're in America and you can reach the American dream. And you know what? You know what? It worked. It worked. I applied myself, but it wasn't by myself. I had Cal grants. I had the Pell grants. I had a lot of help to get me through, and this is what this fight is about. We have to keep the struggle. We have to make sure that kids like you don't graduate with so much debt that you're already behind the 8 ball. And you've got our commitment to make sure that happens. Fast forward, it took me a while. The 6th ingredient I would add is perseverance, because it took me 12 tries to finally get selected by NASA. And yes, I got selected for the 19th class of astronauts in 2004. Got assigned in 2008 as flight engineer aboard Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-128 mission, launched into space in 2009 for a 14-day mission up to the International Space Station. And then I came back to tell about it to all the kids in the Valley, because the best way kids learn is through example. I wanted to make sure they saw that someone came from the Valley can make something of themselves if they apply themselves. But what I saw scared me. It was 2010, the peak of the mortgage foreclosure crisis, if you remember. And guess what? Stockton, Modesto area, the epicenter of that. And more than twice, the national average of unemployment. Yet no one, our representative from the 10th Congressional District, wasn't doing anything about it. That's when I said enough is enough. It's time for us to get involved. It's time for the average citizen, to get involved, and it's time for the average citizen to get involved and play in the political process, get involved in the political process. And that's what I'm doing today. I want to go to Congress because I'm an average citizen who knows what it's like to live in middle America, in middle class America. I have 5 kids, I have 5 tuitions staring me in the face. I'm going to do everything to help you guys make sure you guys get through college. So that's why I'm running for Congress. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now it gives me great pleasure of introducing another colleague of mine. Like me, he's a lifelong Californian, first generation. He's a product of public schools and an example of the American dream. In his career, he's dedicated to outreach and teaching the next generation of doctors here at UC Davis. He's a devoted husband, had the pleasure of meeting his wife, Janine, a loving father, has a 14-year-old daughter named Cedra, and he's not new to congressional races, folks. 2 years ago in 2010, he ran a strong race against the same opponent, Lundgren, and he barely lost by 0.1% in 2010. You got to look at what happened in 2010. In 2010, we were getting creamed all over the country, yet he barely lost by 0.1%. He runs the largest grassroots organization. I'm hoping to get some of his volunteers to help me over in the 10th District, so please come on over to Modesto and Tracy. He's been endorsed by the Sacramento Bee. Dr. Bera, like myself, will champion the middle class. As a doctor, he's trained to ask questions and solve problems. So it is my hope that he and I will go to Congress in 2012 as freshmen to solve those problems. He's a problem solver. He protects women's rights and Medicare. Please help me to welcome Dr. Ami Bera.